So has Hillary Clinton presided over a withdrawal of American power from the world? We're joined now from the Brookings Institute in Washington, D.C. by Bruce Riedel, former CIA strategist, presidential advisor to 4 presidents and long-standing observer of Al-Qaeda. Joining us here is Baroness Pauline Neveille Jones, former British diplomat and security minister. Bruce Riedel, I mean, it's a fact that the Pacific now beckons American interest, and quite understandably, with the Iron Curtain down, the need for you in Europe is retreating. But nevertheless, one wonders whether Hillary Clinton has presided over a situation in which old allies are kind of going by the board.
Well, I don't think old allies are going by the board, but I do think there's a retrenchment in American foreign policy. George Bush recklessly sent this country into Iraq and in the process starved the mission in Afghanistan. When Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton came into office 4 years ago, they were confronted with 2 disasters, one in Iraq and one in Afghanistan, as well as an economic depression at home. As a consequence, they've decided to go for a softer footprint, a lighter footprint. I think what's interesting is there's not a whole lot of debate in the United States about this. I think there's a general consensus pretty much between Republicans and Democrats that while there may be some criticism of the Obama foreign policy, there's no one who wants to jump back in to 2 more large ground wars.
Well, now, Baroness Pauline Neveille Jones, if Europe has a single market, which it does, then it should do something about its security. Yeah. And it would suggest that if the Americans aren't knocking around to do it, we'd better get our stuff together.
Well, I think what we need actually is partnership between the 2. I think the US was overstretched, did get itself involved in 2 ground wars. These have been limited, success, not wholly unsuccessful, but they haven't achieved all their objectives,
and they leave a lot of exactly a start.
No, and I say, but on the other hand, it remains to be seen. These are very long campaigns that you have to conduct, and your military has to be followed by your civilian holding the ground first of all. Establishing the security situation again, and then putting in a great deal of other kinds of assets and power, at which actually the EU is good and does have assets. And we need now, really, we need a who does what strategy for this part of the world. It is something that affects us absolutely very closely. It also affects the US. Terrorism is a global challenge. So there's real room for establishing a good partnership.
Well, Bruce Riedel, let's look at terrorism. And bin Laden's dead, but the effluent of Al-Qaeda is absolutely everywhere. That's
right. I think we're confronting what I call Al-Qaeda 3.0, or the 3rd generation of Al-Qaeda. This is an Al-Qaeda that has grown out of the death of Osama bin Laden, but especially grown out of the changes produced in the Arab world by the Arab Spring. An unintended consequence of the Arab Spring has been the creation of large, lawless areas in eastern Libya and the Sinai Peninsula, increasingly in Syria, and most notably in northern Mali. And Al-Qaeda, the new generation of Al-Qaeda, has been quick to take advantage of that and to set up sanctuaries and safe havens there. And I think we're seeing the French do exactly the right thing in Mali now, going in there to make sure that before that sanctuary gets any more solidified, it is disrupted. But as the Baroness rightly pointed out,
but just before I put that point to Pauline Neveille Jones, can I just ask you, has Hillary Clinton's administration, if you like it, in foreign affairs and security, really reacted rightly in these circumstances, or will she go down as the person who was on deck when Al-Qaeda simply spread its tentacles, maybe the 3rd generation of them, but ever wider?
Well, I don't think it was Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama's power to change the dimensions of the Arab awakening or the Arab Spring. This is an unprecedented series of changes across the Arab world that weren't going to be orchestrated in London, Washington, or any place else. How effectively they've responded to them is a subject of much debate in the United States today, especially how well they responded to the situation that emerged in eastern Libya around Benghazi last fall. We could have done better. There's no question about that. But as the Baroness rightly pointed out, the easy part is the military solution, going in and knocking out the safe haven. The hard part is trying to put the Humpty Dumpty of Mali or Afghanistan or Yemen or Libya back together again. That's where soft power is a lot more important than hard power.
Right. I mean, a very strong point with which I know you agree. But, you know, Syria is bound, surely, to be one of the tombstones of this administration.
Well, I think it's a very hard challenge. I would not have expected to see, and indeed I don't think I would have wanted to see, an American intervention in Syria. This is not a toy army, and this is not, you know, you would have had huge bloodshed. I don't think it's the way to handle it. I agree with what was being...
Just sort of picking up that point, the fact is we have been quiescent in Saudi and Qatari funding of the other side, which has itself been unfortunately penetrated and taken over in large measure by Al-Qaeda.
There you do actually make a very good point. Because if you're not going to intervene, and I don't think we can go on doing that, you do have to get in ahead. So the policies that have to be pursued are ones that actually engage the counter-terrorist organizations, the intelligence organizations, which actually take soft power in, not after you've had a problem, but before you've actually had one. So you can't disengage from the Middle East. You need to do a very great deal more in the Gulf and in Syria than we have been doing.
Very briefly, points out of 10, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State.
7.
7? Bruce Riedel, points out of 10 for Hillary Clinton?
An 8.
8. Pretty good harmony there. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Kathy.
Thanks, John.